Good.
Hey, Bill.
Hey Don, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. So we thought we'd do a kind of wrap up from week one, and we'll do these each week, just to touch base on some of the things that happened in the prior week, go over any administrative issues that have come up, as well as any points of discussion we want to make sure that we underscore, and other issues that might arise. So I don't know, Don, if you want to start with some of the admin issues, or do you want me to go ahead?
Uh, well, let's see. I can start with the quizzes, I guess. We had there was a quiz zero, which was just getting used to using the quiz system, and most of you all were able to do that. That was the one that asked you to put a profile picture up and to um, also do the voice thread. That was just a practice to use the quiz. The first quiz that's going to end up in the grade book was quiz one, and we saw basically people did pretty well. I think our average was around 87, if that's correct, Bill.
Yep, that's right.
And none of the questions were, there was no question that was a complete dog. They all were answered correctly by various people. Nothing was a obviously bad question. If you have any questions individually about ones that you got wrong, feel free to email us and we'll try and follow up with whatever correction you're looking for.
And another thing on the quiz is that we did see a pattern in the results, which is that there were most people did really well. As Don said, the average was 87 for the whole class. There were a few people who didn't do so well, and it seemed kind of clear to us that if you hadn't watched the video lectures and hadn't really paid attention to the readings or engaged in the forum as much as some other people, then that really did impact your quiz grade. It really did show up in the number of questions that you got wrong on the quiz. So we want to underscore that it's difficult and it's a new thing for some people to be in an online only format, but you really do have to keep up with the work and watch the videos that we're putting up online. Just sit there, watch them, have a notepad nearby, take notes, or take notes on the computer while you're watching, because you really do need those video lectures by us in addition to the readings if you're going to succeed on the quizzes and the other forms of assessment for this class.
Yeah, so we're trying to use the course website, the UCI Learn website, to be our primary place where you can go to get the information about what's going on in each week, and we're doing our best to make that the place that's clear to find the assignments that you need to go through. So there's emails and there's forums and I know there's all kinds of information coming at you, but that website should be the place that you can go to and be like, okay, I'm lost. What should I be doing? Here's the readings. Here's the videos, and just going on down through the list on the website, also gets to the point of us releasing the information on the website. We're releasing the information right now on like Sunday at 11:59, so very end of Sunday evening. And for a couple people have asked us to release if we can release it sooner. And since this is the first offering of the course online, we're still trying to make sure that everything is squared away on the website before we release it. So we're not going to be able to release it earlier, the whole week earlier, but that original syllabus has all the readings that we're going to be asking people to do. So the one that was in the Google Doc that we sent out, I think first week Bill sent it out. So if you just want to get a head start on a given week before we formally release the content on the UCI Learn website, you can go into the syllabus and start reading, because those readings have been pretty much set in stone by us before the class started.
Yep, and you'll see in the syllabus in the Google Doc, which again you can access from the Learn website. It's right up at the top in week zero. You'll see on that syllabus in the Google Doc that the readings are almost all hyperlinks, and if they're not, there's a note there explaining to you where you can get your hands on the reading. So all the reading is available online before we release the week's content if you just access it through that Google Doc.
So that's a good way to get us heads up. So then in the discussion this week, we were actually kind of happy with the way the discussion worked. There was a few exchanges that we thought were really bringing out some of the interesting points of Bitcoin, especially as you first start to engage with this. And we just kind of want to point out what the good exchanges were so that you guys know what we think is good. Bill, do you want to start out with one and I'll pull it up on the screen for him?
Sure, and also just this is by way of helping you have better discussions in these online forums. We don't want people just to be saying, hey Don, that was a great point you made. Thanks. The end, right? We want a little bit more engagement, a little bit more back and forth that really are grappling with some of the ideas of the course or some of the issues that Bitcoin or money in general or money technology is raising. So, here's one example. There was a discussion that was initiated with Zihao Liu's description of Bitcoin on Tuesday, June 24th at 11:47 p.m. And Zihao started with a kind of basic, very nicely formulated discussion of what Bitcoin is. And then Vivian jumped in. Vivian Zokoto jumped in. I know there's a couple of Vivians in the class. And Vivian said, I'm really fascinated by this paradox of openness and anonymity in Bitcoin. Because on the one hand, the transactions are anonymous. And on the other hand, the confirmed transactions are all on the blockchain, which is a kind of public ledger. And then Joanne jumped in and said, yeah, I'm trying to understand this a bit more too. I thought your identity was private by reading the articles, but I'm confused too because the public transaction log is all public. And then Diana Vu jumped in and brought in the problem of the security of the transactions and the kind of privacy of them depends on keeping your computer and your personal information protected. And then it goes on back and forth a little bit there. And that was a really nice little snippet of back and forth, pulling on a few key issues in Bitcoin, and with Diana's comment, really leading into some of the things that we're going to be talking about in week 2, having to do with encryption. So that was one nice example. I think Don's got another nice example that he's pulled up on his screen too.
Yeah, and just to follow up on the content there, it's true that the Bitcoin blockchain, when people transact on the blockchain, the information on the blockchain is anonymous. But in order to actually do a transaction in real life, it's very difficult to actually be anonymous and give someone something. Even in the example of Silk Road, if you wanted to sell someone something illegal, well, at some point you had to actually reveal an address to which the drugs or whatever was being sold was delivered. And in that moment, regardless of how anonymous Bitcoin is, you've suddenly destroyed a lot of anonymity just by virtue of having to do an actual transaction in the real world. And the follow-up where the guy who ran Silk Road was caught sort of points out that anonymity has its limits, and there's a lot more to the story than just whether or not the transaction in Bitcoin is anonymous.
That's right.
So the other one we wanted to pull out was one that started with... so actually the one that started with Matthew Chung. That's the one we were looking at. And so it was, it started with Matthew Chung putting a post up there about Bitcoin, like we asked him to do. He was talking a little about the banking system and stabilizing the market. And Mira Manian commented back that it's a lot like cash using these transactions. And the question was asked, why not just use cash? Why go to the trouble of using Bitcoin to buy things when you can just use your debit card or whatever you want? And why engage in the riskiness of Bitcoin in order to do this transaction? And then Zihao chimed in, a third person in the discussion, and talked a little bit about the transaction fees that were associated with current payment systems. And that was great. The discussion went on, and I think that really opened up some ideas about, well, what are these transaction fees for? And are you getting any value for those transaction fees? And then that even sort of got into some issues about government regulations that require some of these fees and why they're required. A lot of the discussion around Bitcoin is very anti-government in a way, and we forget that a lot of the regulation are providing services and protection to people. It's not just evil overlords trying to take money from us.
And I'm just noticing that at the end of that thread, there was just a comment posted today by Mark, observing that over time, it might turn out that there'll be a bunch of services added on top of Bitcoin, and that those are the things that ultimately people are going to be paying transaction fees for. There's a whole lot more in there as well about the kind of social needs of people in engaging in transactions, and the venture capitalists that Mark says are probably salivating over the possibility of seeing higher returns from transaction fees based on services that are added on top of the Bitcoin model in the future. So that was a really, really nice thread of discussion that raised a lot of issues. And again, you'll see if you just sort of take a look at the two examples that we're showing, and there's a bunch of other examples in here too, that what's happening is people are not just saying, great point, thumbs up, right? But really digging into the meat of the thing and adding some thoughts and pushing the conversation further. And we really want to continue to see that.
Yeah, and then over in the Ask Us Anything forum, there have been a few, just some technical things. There's a little bit of admin back and forth there, but there was also someone asked a little bit more about the Bitcoin miner that we showed in the mining video, and I dropped a link there so that you can go look live if you want to at the performance of the miner that's running in ICS-1. So you can see exactly how much money we're making and how fast it comes in, and there's also a link to a website that you can go to and calculate how much you could make if you decided to mine Bitcoin given electricity and the cost of the miner. So that's another place where the discussion's going on.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
So we're looking forward to week 2. We've got some stuff about origins of money that we're excited to start bringing in some of the the social aspects of what we do with money, and then also some introduction into cryptography, which is going to set us up for talking about the blockchain.
Yep. And on the cryptography part, there's actually a little lab assignment where you're going to be sending each other encrypted messages in the forums that we've set up for that. So just, you'll need to watch the videos and read the instructions in order to do it, but we think it'll be a lot of fun.
Don't panic. The instruction videos are pretty step-by-step into how you can do this. So it should be okay.
Great. We're looking forward to this week.
Okay. See you in week 2.